Hey guys, Rashad back with my Road to Civil War, and this is day 7, and I'm starting off phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Iron Man 3. Oh boy. So Iron Man 3 is directed by Shane Black, stars Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Ben Kingsley, Guy Pearce, and Rebecca Hall. So Iron Man 3 was probably one of the most anticipated movies of the summer in 2013. The trailers promised us a darker, more foreboding Iron Man movie with his iconic villain, the Mandarin, as the big baddie in the movie. And so there was really a lot of hype going into this movie. And yeah, this movie just failed on all ends. So basically, the plot in essence is Tony Stark. There's a guy from his past who Tony skipped one meeting with, and then all of a sudden his past comes back to haunt him in the form of Aldrich Killian and the Mandarin. So Tony basically has to stop an unknown terrorist from basically destroying the world, while at the same time battling post-traumatic stress disorder from the events of the Avengers. So that's basically in essence the plot. So as usual, I'm gonna start off with the good stuff, but there aren't many good things to say about this movie. So first of all, Robert Downey Jr. as always, he kills it as Iron Man, and I really liked I guess his PTSD moments, even though they were a bit too much and they kind of ruined his character in a way. But I get it because PTSD is a serious thing, and Tony, he's not used to all these things. Like, he went up into space, he took a nuke into space, and he saw all those aliens and the big mothership. So he knows that there's other things out in the universe, and that scares him. So he really kills it as Iron Man as usual. Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper, Don Cheadle as Rhodey. It was really cool to see them back, and yeah, they both do a good job playing their character. And Rhodey's character actually switches the name. They switch the name from War Machine to Iron Patriot, which I guess is paying homage to the actual character Iron Patriot from the comics, who was actually Norman Osborn when he took over Shield. So yeah, they were cool to see. Guy Pearce plays Aldrich Killian, and he is perhaps by far one of the worst villains I've ever seen in my life. Like, not just superhero movies, like in general, he's probably one of the worst villains I've ever seen. He does a great job acting as Aldrich Killian, but his villain, his character, I really didn't care about him at all. And Rebecca Hall basically plays like a former love interest slash plot device for Iron Man 3. Like, yeah, that her character is literally a plot device. So that covers the acting. There was like some good action sequences. Like, I really enjoyed the scene where his house is getting attacked, and then he's just fighting back with his Mark 42 armor. And the final battle, it was cool to see all those suits come in and just wreck all those extremist soldiers. So that was cool to see. And yeah, that's basically it for the good stuff. Now, this movie, oh my god, this movie was a mess from the get-go. So, like I said, the villain is probably the worst villain I've ever seen. I'm not gonna lie, his motive is literally for hating Tony Stark is because one time long ago, Tony skipped a meeting with him. Like, Tony was supposed to have a meeting with him, and Tony skipped out on him. Like, that's it. That's why he hates Tony, and that's why he wants to kill him. Just let that sink in. So, I guess in a way it reminded me of Syndrome from The Incredibles, but Syndrome actually had a proper like motive for hating Mr. Incredible and The Incredibles. Like, he saw Mr. Incredible as his hero. He worshipped Mr. Incredible basically, and the fact that his hero, I guess, bailed on him, and then like he basically did all for what he feels all the bad stuff to him. Syndrome had good reason to like hate Mr. Incredible. Aldrich Killian has no reason to hate Tony. I mean, yeah, he skipped a meeting with him, but that was back when Tony really didn't care much about his company or anything. I'm not saying that excuses Tony, but hating a guy for just skipping out on one meeting with him is That's a pretty stupid motive. And for whatever reason, this movie takes place at Christmas. I mean, I know Shane Black is notorious for making movies that take place at Christmas, but I don't really understand why this movie took place in Christmas, like at all. Like it's a summer blockbuster and it takes place in Christmas. So yeah, the villain wasn't that compelling and his motive was pretty dumb. But that's not the worst part about this movie. The worst part about this movie is what they do to the Mandarin. So the Mandarin is like one of the most iconic Iron Man villains of all time, and he's basically Iron Man's Joker. So, like I said, there was a lot of hype when we found out that he was going to be the villain in this movie, and when Ben Kingsley, seeing him in the trailer portraying the Mandarin, we felt that he would be a great Mandarin. And then they literally do one of the worst things you could do to a villain like that, and they make him a fake. So there is no Mandarin. He's just an actor who's pretending to be a terrorist who's hired by Aldrich Killian to cover all his accidents. Like, Aldrich Killian develops like a, I guess, rip-off super soldier serum. But one of the side effects is that if it doesn't, like, work with your biology properly, you blow up in, like, huge explosions. And he uses the Mandarin as, like, a fake terrorist to cover his attacks. So yeah, Ben Kingsley actually plays a character called Trevor Slattery, who's, like, a two-bit like actor who's like down on his luck and who's addicted to drugs. That's what they do to the Mandarin. And this really made me and a lot of fans mad because, okay, imagine if in The Dark Knight the Joker was just a run-of-the-mill clown. That's basically what they do to the Mandarin. They completely ruined his character. And then at the end, they have the balls to say that Aldrich Killian is the Mandarin. He literally goes up to Tony and says, "You wanted the Mandarin? Well, here I am. I am the Mandarin." And I'm just like, no. They completely ruined the character, and this was one of the worst parts of the movie. And even the action sequences that I liked, like especially the house blowing up, even that scene is made stupid during the final battle when all his suits show up. Because it shows that Tony has all these suits like just ready to go, but he doesn't initialize any of them during the house attack. And the one suit he does use during the house attack, that's supposed to be his latest suit, but it's the most faulty of his suits. It doesn't work properly. It breaks apart when it's hit by a truck, even though he fought Thor in the Avengers. So yeah, this completely just messed up his suits, and like they just keep falling apart. They're basically useless. And the one time he does need them, he doesn't use them for whatever reason. So yeah, that was pretty dumb. And then, I guess, I have nothing against, like, PTSD. It's like a serious, like, condition. But watching Tony battle it, like, against, like, throughout the movie, I wouldn't mind because it makes sense. He did something in the Avengers that he wasn't used to. He was basically, I guess, his first taste of war. But like seeing him battle it through consistently, and then okay, this is how he gets over his PTSD. He realizes from a kid that he meets in the movie that he makes stuff, like he's a tinkerer. That's how he gets over his PTSD. So they completely ruined the whole point of having PTSD. So, and yeah, oh my god, yeah, that's just one of the things like he really hate about this movie. Shane Black was a terrible director, and I don't know why they didn't bring Jon Favreau back, because Jon Favreau was actually in the movie. He still played Happy Hoganson, who he played in the first two Iron Man movies. So I don't know why Jon Favreau didn't come back to direct, because as bad as Iron Man 2 was, it still had some good moments. And this movie didn't have any good moments, and well, it did have like few, but those moments are made dumb as the movie progresses when you realize that this moment could have been totally different if Tony had done this. So yeah, and oh my god, the villains, like, it was another basically faceless army like the Avengers, like all those extremist soldiers. And yeah, and okay, when Tony Stark's house is getting blown up, nobody comes after him. S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't look for him. He doesn't call in any of the Avengers for help. Like, it's like nobody cares about Tony anymore. So, like, that didn't make any sense at all. So yeah, overall, guys, this movie, I hate this movie with a passion. This is probably the superhero movie I hate the most. It like besides like good acting from Robert Downey Jr. and the other people, and like one or two good like cool moments in the movie. This movie was terrible. The story was terrible. The villain was probably the worst villain I've ever seen in my life. Um, they completely ruined the Mandarin character. And yeah, this movie didn't make any sense. Even at the end of this movie, Tony gets rid of his arc reactor, but then he blows up all his suits, right? Because he wants to prove that he cares more about Pepper than he does about his suits. But then when you see in Age of Ultron, he gets his suits back. So that doesn't make any sense. They don't really explain how he gets his suits back. So it would have been better if he didn't blow up all his suits. Like if he just said, I'll do less superhero work now and just spend more time with you." So yeah, overall, guys, this movie is a terrible movie. I would not recommend seeing this, and I'm gonna give Iron Man 3 5 out of 10. So yeah, that concludes my day 7 of Road to Civil War and my review for Iron Man 3. So if you've seen Iron Man 3, just tell me what you thought of the movie below, and what do you think was the dumbest part of this movie. And as always, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, like, share, subscribe, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one.